Good evening and welcome to the Round 3 preview of the Try Hard NRL betting podcast presented by Obscenity. Thanks, Jason, and that's exactly what we are, undefeated, going a perfect 3-0 to start the season. It's been a good start.
I mean, here we are previewing round 3 and still, yet to lose.
Yet to lose. It's been an absolutely cracking start to the season, and as expected, we've got a few viewers that have chimed in.
Yeah, I mean, Adam and Emerald wrote in, thanks to you guys, I now only eat cereal for breakfast and lunch.
Yep. That's exactly right.
That's awesome. That's what we like to hear.
We've got another viewer question from way over in the States over here. Now, Floyd Mayweather from Las Vegas says, I know how hard it is to be undefeated, and a 3-0 record is unprecedented. How long do you think you guys can stay undefeated?
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. Hey, and when I say that, I really believe it. I'm not just up here blowing smoke at none of these fans, because that's not what I'm about. I'm about business, and we believe.
Yep, we do believe.
Let's keep the party going. Why stop now?
Exactly. So, Floyd, we'll try and keep it coming for you, mate. That's what we try and do.
And we've got an absolutely huge show this week. I mean, we really like the slate this week. Got a lot of best bets. I mean, we don't want to give too much away, but 5 best bets.
5 best bets today.
Barely count them on one hand this week.
It is going to be a cracker of a show for
Money
you guys
on the
tonight.
Ground.
So we better get started. We don't want this to go too long, but it's going to be an absolute ripper of a show.
Shout out to the New Zealand Warriors who kept the winning streak alive last week. Comprehensive 12-point winners.
Absolutely, and it was tight, for the first half, 6 apiece, and then just 2 quick tries at the start of the second half within 5 minutes, and that just won it for us.
And the desperation, that is what we were betting on to hold the Raiders out. And speaking of the Warriors, I thought that leads well into our Betting 101 segment this week. Because a lot of people have asked me the question, you guys bet against the Warriors in week 1 as a best bet, then you're betting on the Warriors in week 2. Mm-hmm. So how does that work? Do you like the Warriors or you don't like the Warriors?
Yeah, and I guess it's a little bit tricky because you may think, you look at a team and you might see a matchup and you'll say, well, this team's better than the other team. They should win, But it's not as easy as that. You have to really look at the situations and the spots that the teams are in, don't you? Yeah,
that's right. And it's not like if you're going out there saying, I'm going to bet the Broncos this weekend and you haven't even looked at the line, you're not going to win money. We don't bet teams, we bet numbers. So you can give me any game on the board and give me any team, and I'll bet them for the right number.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, just like I could tell you, the Roosters are playing, the Raiders, and you'll say, of course the Roosters are going to win. But, given the right line, you'd take the Raiders and you'd also take the Roosters.
And it's just one more thing that's important to really watch the games. I mean, we both watched New Zealand play the Knights in round 1, and when we came away from that game, we were really impressed with the Knights. We said, that's a really good team. We didn't take too much away from the Warriors. Yeah, they lost. Every game's going to have one loser. That's
exactly right, and I think it amplifies it. I think, we think that the Knights are a little bit underrated, so we think they're a bit better than the public thinks that they are. So, a loss to the Knights in our eyes isn't that bad.
And the Knights proved that.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting a win in Townsville.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of round 2, let's get straight into our 3 biggest takeaways, sponsored by KFC.
Yep. So probably my biggest takeaway, the Roosters and the Rabbits, they're a class above everyone else. And that was by far the game of the season. Absolute rip-roar of a game. And that's, they're both going to be a bit sore coming out of that game. But that's my first takeaway. They showed that they are the top 2 contenders in the league at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That was a hell of a game. Could have gone either way, really. My first takeaway was Friday night. Not the most exciting game, Broncos-Sharks, but Paul Gallen quietly had 27 carries for 270 metres.
Beast.
And that is significant because this Sharks pack, I see a lot of potential to actually be one of the biggest bullying packs in the comp. And that's kind of Gallen form from a couple of years ago. So keep your eye on that.
Yeah, my second one, the Panthers are for real. I know you tipped them to, obviously be in the grand final. But look, they played a struggling Titans, missing a couple of their best players. And it was a real arm wrestle early on, for the whole first half. But the really good teams, they stand up in those sorts of games. Some of the worst teams, if they're having not too good of a game, they might just slack off and lose games. And you can't afford to lose those if you want to be a top 4 contender, which I think they are. But then they really showed their class in the second half and obviously piled on 40 points. But they didn't just win it with offense. I mean, they didn't concede a point in that game. It was very impressive.
And that's not to be underrated. Keeping a team to 0, that's impressive. And that leads into what I want to talk about a little bit, and that was really poor attacking football. Sharks, Titans, Raiders and Dragons, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Those 4 teams put up a combined 12 points in round 2. So, we're not in kindy anymore, guys. We can't be passing the ball one off the ruck, just playing side to side in defence. I mean, think of the good attacking teams out there, the Storm, the Dogs, the Roosters.
Yep.
You make teams make decisions. You test teams out when you're in attack. And then if you don't score, you try and get a repeat set. But I felt like these teams were almost just hitting it up 5 times and then hoping something happened off the kick. Look, I'm not going to write off any of those sides, but they really need to find a spark in attack, or else you're not going to be able to find a way to win games.
Yeah, I agree. And I did watch that Sharks game, and they were just absolutely woeful. They were making 30 metres a set, starting from their own 20, and they just couldn't get the ball forward. Makes it very tough. My last takeaway is that the refs have been absolutely woeful this season, and they might be the shittest we've ever seen. Obviously, over the weekend, we have the refs letting Nightingale play it to himself, which is an absolute abomination. There's a couple of questionable video ref decisions, some questionable obstruction calls, and some missed cheap shots, especially you would have seen on Thurston.
Yeah, and then keep your eye on that. I think the refs are going to really want to be seen to be protecting players this weekend. We could see some penalties in some critical spots in games.
Yeah.
And my last takeaway is that James Tedesco is absolute quicksilver. I mean, this is a guy who's been a bit injury plagued, still a young guy, and I don't want to overreact because a lot of backline players are going to look pretty good in a dominant win. But man, this guy, you can just tell when he takes the ball to the line, he's just got that extra gear at speed. He was given the Dragons fits, and then he can take it to the line, and he's got the skills to make plays for others. And just looking a little closer to that Tigers team, you've obviously got Farah there, you've got Brooks. That's a team, when their forwards can match it with the opposition, they've got match winners on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. And Tedesco was by far the best player on the field that night. And the Tigers, they might be a bit better than we may have initially thought.
Yeah, definitely keep your eye on the Tigers. Alright, let's get straight into it. This is, like we said, a huge round coming up.
Absolutely massive round coming up. This is going to be, and as we said last week, it's not often that rounds like this come along. We really pick our spots, but we think this is going to be a ripper of a round. A lot of specials to be found, a lot of value. And yeah, this is a great time to make a lot of money. So listen carefully.
Great moments are born from great opportunities. That's what you have here tonight, Nick. That's what you've earned here tonight. One shot. You take it 10 times, you might miss 9. But not this shot, Nick. Not tonight.
Yep, and it's going to be a great one. And why don't we kick it off with the first game of Friday night, and that's the Sea Eagles hosting the Dogs.
Yeah, and I mean, I wish we had a little more faith in the Dogs last week. We were so close to making them a best bet. It was a perfect storm. You had the Dogs off a loss to the Panthers, looking a little worse than they really were. And you had the Eels riding way too high off a kind of a phony win against Manly.
Yeah.
We just had our doubts with the short preparation and missing Reynolds.
Obviously Reynolds.
But actually the class came through and ended up comfortably winning by 20 and covering the line there.
Definitely.
This team is full of quality all across the park, in the back line and the forwards. Really, they are full strength other than missing Reynolds. And you're not just filling in with any backup. You've got Moses and Mbai, who deputised last year when Reynolds was out with injury and suspension, and also when Hodgkinson was injured. And if you haven't seen much of him by play, he's got probably the coolest name in the NRL. So I really like the Dogs in this spot.
I love the Dogs as well. I think I had them picked to go all the way to the grand final. Look, Manly's still a team in turmoil. Yes, they showed up last week, but it was thanks to 3 quick tries. and then the Storm rallied late. But the Storm, they're not a great side. It's a phony win. I really, really like Canterbury here. I know that we played them a little bit earlier in the week when they were actually dogs in this game. The line is now at 1. You can find some 1.5s. You can also find Pickham in some places, and I think at Pickham it's a great price.
Yeah, and obviously we know Kieran Foran's out. He's a massive part of this Manly team. They were able to win without him, yeah, but I think they did lift especially for that game. Tom Simons also got injured in that game, and he's an important back rower for them. Cherry Evans was absolutely superb. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but he was off his brain, and they only won by 2 points against the Storm. Is this a letdown spot for Manly? I don't think they're good enough to beat the Dogs. I'm with you. Yep. That's a best bet.
That's a best bet for me too, and it is a little bit of a letdown spot. Manly Storm, bit of rivalry. They really got up for that game. I think they might fall a little bit flat here. And Canterbury is just a better side all around the park, so I'm happy to co-sign that as a best bet.
There you go, kicking off the round with the best bet.
Kicking off the round, Canterbury at Pickham. And make sure you shop around, because some places have a -1, but you really want Pickham. So, first best bet of the night.
As we've said in previous pods, Pickham just means all you need them to do is win.
Yep. Now moving on to the second Friday night game, and that's the Bronx hosting the Cowboys.
Yep, and the Cowboys have done something a bit radical here. They've picked probably their third best player, and that's Lachlan Coote. So he's going to debut this year. Which I really love the move. He's a guy has barely played in the last 2 seasons, but I remember the talent that he showed when he was playing, when he was back in Penrith, the guy that was brought in to replace Matty Bowen. So he's in the side and then moving Michael Morgan into the halves. And this is a team that was picked to maybe win the comp, definitely be a top 4 side. They really can't start the season with 3 straight losses.
Yep.
This is nearly a must-win game in round 3. I think they're just going to be too desperate. I think in situations like this, the class, rises to the top. For me, I really like the Cows in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we spoke about this off air a little bit, and we were saying that, basically when a team's 0-2 to start the season, it's almost an automatic play. But there's a lot more things that come into this as well. Obviously, North Queensland off a couple of disappointing losses. They had that game against Newcastle. Brisbane coming off a bit of a phony win against the Sharks. I mean, they only put up 10 points. The Sharks were dismal in that game.
And the 2 tries were pretty lucky.
They were lucky, yep. North Queensland's going to be fired up to win this. As you said, I don't think they want to drop 3 in a row. They're actually dogs in this spot. You can catch 2 points up to 2.5 points, and I think that's a great value. I think North Queensland's not losing this game.
No, and one other thing, the Cows have 2 losses, but who did they lose to? They lost to the Roosters and they lost to the Knights, and that's 2 really good sides. So I'm not prepared to write off the Cowboys at all.
Yeah, and a lot of people have.
I've got a bit of a dilemma. I'm going to be betting a lot of money on the Cowboys this weekend, but my team is the Broncos. So who do you think I should go for?
Go with your wallet, not your heart.
I think you're right, but I'm actually going to the game. So I'm going to be going there probably wearing a Broncos jersey. No. I guess I'll just pretend I'm happy when the Broncos are scoring, but really...
Really, one way of thinking of it, I guess, is it's a win-win situation. That's how you should think of it, but how I would probably think of it if I was you is that it's a lose-lose situation. You're either losing a crap ton of money or the Broncos are losing.
The way I'm kind of envisioning a scenario where 50,000 people are celebrating me losing money.
Yep. Well, you're going to be so drunk anyway, it's not going to matter.
And I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest, because I feel really confident about the Cowboys. Cowboys plus 2.5. I think they win this game outright. That's the best bet for me.
I'm happy to co-sign that. So that's another best bet, the second one for the Friday night. So, hopefully you'll be have a bit of money filled in your pockets on the Friday night.
Back to back. Best bets on a Friday night. That's a good way to start the weekend.
Definitely. Now, moving on, we've got heading over the ocean, and we've got the Warriors hosting the Eels.
Yep, and New Zealand's good, not great team. At home, you probably think they're too strong. The Eels are catching 8 points here, but I'm not playing the Eels after they lost my favourite player,
the try-scoring machine. New Zealand should win this game, but laying 8 points, that's a lot of points to lay with a team that you don't really know. They may show up, they may not. Para, I think we've decided that they had a phony win against the Dogs in round 1. Obviously, I don't think they're a top-notch side. Don't see any value in either side of this, really. I don't know about yourself.
No, it's a pass from me.
Yeah, I'm happy to co-sign the pass on that one. Now moving on, we've got the Raiders hosting the Dragons. Now the line for this, it's changed a little bit over the last few days. Canberra actually 2.5-point favourites. Then they went ahead and lost to the Warriors, and the line actually ballooned out to -4.5, which is a little bit strange. And then now there's been some late money for St George into 3.5 the line now.
I mean, what do you make of this game? This is, of course, the hoodoo game.
Yep.
Do you believe in hoodoos?
Well, I mean, did we believe in hoodoos when we bet Warriors against Canberra?
That's the thing. I mean,
Slightly less of a hoodoo, but one in the last 15 years.
I think the last time the Dragons won in Canberra, Brogan's ex-girlfriend was winning a gold medal at the Sydney Olympics. So that's a long time ago.
That's 15 years ago.
Yeah, now, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, the side I really want to play is the Dragons, despite the hoodoo, but I'm not playing the Dragons with no Dugan, no Ben Cray, no Dan Hunt. Like, it's a solid team, but it's not a deep team, and when you take 3 of their best players out, that's enough to keep me off St George. And Canberra just did not show me enough. They couldn't show me anything with the ball against the Warriors when they were down 12. There just nothing doing there.
No, there was nothing. A lot of mistakes as well.
That's
though.
right. Throw in the hoodoo. For me, I'm staying away from that one.
No, I'm happy to stay away from it as well. I know that we were looking at this game a few weeks ago, actually, saying that this might be a good place to play St George, especially if they were Dogs. Obviously not counting on Dugan getting injured. But Canberra, as favourites, I can't lay points with them, and are not fully healthy Dragons. I can't grab 3.5 points with them either. It's a pass from me.
Yeah. Now that's halfway through the round, and we've given you 2 best bets.
Two best bets.
Now before we preview the rest of the round, let's get into one of the favourite segments of the pod, which is the rapid fire questions, and I've got one here for you. Not really a question, but start off with Michael in Hamilton. He's written, just like true gamblers, you guys never talk about your losing bets.
Yep. Well, Michael in Hamilton, we haven't had any to talk about.
Good point.
Now, I've got one from you. This is one from Pete in Kedron. Now, he says, there's been a lot of hype about the Tigers. Can they finish in the top 8?
Look, Pete, what I'd have to say to you, mate, is enjoy it while you can. Maybe a little like us. You're not going to be undefeated forever. Ride it as far as you can. But unlike us, I don't think you're going to finish the season with a winning record.
You took it easy on him, at least. I know he's a loyal Tigers supporter.
They're probably just a year or 2 away, to be honest. And Westy in the West writes, you guys are killing it, but you need to market yourselves better and explain how much money people would be up if they'd bet on all of your best bets.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair enough question, I guess, because you want to put it in some dollar figures for them. But, alright, Westy, well, it all depends on how much you're betting on each bet. So every single bet that we do, unlike, a standard bet where you might have a $1.20 favourite, all of our bets are with the line. So essentially they're 50-50 bets. So, I mean, in simple maths, basically, if you're putting down $1, you're going to win back around $2, a little less. So if you're betting, just your standard sort of $50,000 a game, then if you'd bet all of our games, you'd be up about $150,000.
So most of our listeners are probably up $150,000.
I'd say that's probably the standard.
That's not bad, It's a
you're
good
off
start.
your head if you're not betting at least that amount.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you don't like money, don't take our best bets.
Yep.
It's up to you.
Now, I've got a question from Hannah in Hamilton. Now, she says, I need to make a quick buck because my boyfriend is losing so much money on the horses. Who is on upset alert for round 3?
Well, Hannah, I'm glad you asked. It's actually your boyfriend's favourite team. It's the Cronulla Sharks. And I guess
stuff.
that's a bit of a spoiler because that's probably the next game we're going to preview. But Cronulla's a live dog here. I think the Storm are not legit. I think Cronulla's going to run all over them. We're going to get to that game next. But I'll tell you now, love Cronulla on Saturday night. All
right, excellent. There you go, Hannah. So if you're laying $50,000 on Cronulla, you're going to win nearly $200,000. So that should cover, not only the money that your boyfriend's lost, but also I guess some nice jewellery for you.
Maybe even a house deposit, but we'll see.
Yep.
And Adam in Emerald's written, I often have a double movement after my morning coffee. When I watch the NRL, I just don't see the same consistency from the refs.
Yeah, Adam, and you're absolutely right. And look, to be honest, I don't know the consistency of your morning poops, but by the way you're sounding, they're fairly inconsistent. And I'd have to agree with you. We touched on it a little bit earlier. The refs have been terribly inconsistent over the past couple of weeks. So look, hopefully that'll even out, and as well as your stools, hopefully you'll get a little bit more consistent there.
And might be time to get back into the preview the rest of the rounds, and let's find out who our three more best bets
The
are.
3 best bets.
But just before that, how about a word from our loyal sponsor?
Need to kickstart your own preseason training? The Try Hard NRL Betting Podcast is proudly sponsored by F-Sanity, the Performance Athletic Association specialising in functional and sports-specific training. Find and follow F-Sanity on Instagram today.
Thanks, F-Sanity, and a loyal sponsor, and we actually got our first shipment of some merchandise today. And I tried on that singlet, and it is really comfortable.
It's light. It's really, smooth.
It breathes, and I sweat a lot. And I put on that singlet, and I still sweat a lot.
You were less sweaty, though, I thought.
It seemed less sweaty.
Yeah, and I ran a 4.240, which is definitely an improvement for me when I'm wearing the singlet. So,
it's even quicker than Jared Stain.
Yeah. Right, well, it's the Melbourne Storm hosting the Cronulla Sharks, if I'm not mistaken, next up.
And I really like the Sharks in this spot. Coming off a really, really disappointing loss against Brisbane. Obviously couldn't even put up a try in that game. I think that they're going to be focusing on some offense this week. Look, the defense was good. They only allowed 10 points. I still think the Storm's overrated. Yes, they lost to Manly, who I think is also not a great team at the moment. But I think the Sharks are coming into a good spot here. Disappointing loss. They're going to be fired up for this one. And they're catching 10 points. Some places you can find 10.5. That's too many points, I feel like, for this one. And I really like Cronulla in this spot.
Man, I like Cronulla for a lot of reasons, but I mean, you said it there. You can get 10.5 points, and this is a desperate football team. This is a team that just had a terrible season last season. All of the drug allegations, really marred their season. Now they're 0-2. They do not want to start the season with 3 losses. It's similar to the Cowboys. They're going to be desperate. They're going to scrap and claw. And if you see the team list, Luke Lewis is back. I mean, he's a guy who's played a lot of Origin games and a lot of games for the Kangaroos. He's going to make a big difference. When he comes into the side, I think the line's going to drop. At the moment, he's been named 18th man, but what I'm hearing is he's going to play. We can get 10.5. Play it now. Grab the 10.5. It's not going to be around for too long. I love Cronulla in this spot. As I said earlier, I think they win this game outright.
I agree, and I think if you can catch 10.5 now, you should bet it now. Because if it goes up to 11.5, it's not that much of an advantage. You really need to be getting over 12 to get any value there. But if it drops below 10 and gets to 9.5, you've sort of missed the boat a little bit there. And I think 10.5 is a much better number, and you should jump in now. Moving on, we've got the Rabbits hosting the Red Hot Tigers. And here, the Rabbits are laying 12.5 points. You can find them minus 13.5 in some places. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, the Rabbits are absolutely rolling. We touched on that, awesome display again last week. The only side I can really look to is the Tigers. We've also spoken about them, that we really like, the Tigers. But I don't really want to play the Tigers off a 20-point win. Maybe they look a little too good. We don't want to suffer from any recency bias. I don't feel too great taking the Tigers plus 12 because South Sydney's that ruthless.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lay 12 with South Sydney either because I respect West. So I've got to stay away from this game. Wait and see what happens. If the Bunnies jump all over West, then I can look to bet on West in future weeks.
Yeah, that's right. And I think this one could go either way. I mean, the Tigers could easily hang with Souths for the first half, and then, if you bet Souths and you're needing to score 3 more tries, then your bet's looking a little bit crap. But then, once again, Rabbits are on a roll, and they could just pile on 40 points in this game as well. So, I mean, this one could go either way. I hate laying big points, but against the Rabbits, I'm not willing to take Tigers plus the 12.5 either. It's a stay away from me. So next we've got the revamped Titans hosting the Knights.
That's right. When you say revamped, obviously referring to the reinstatement of the players that have been on the coke binge over the off-season. So Greg Bird, the coke train, and Falloon are all back in the team. We've said before, and we've won money on the Titans before, it's actually a pretty solid side. This week I'm hearing they're moving Hoffman to fullback and Zillman into the centres. Maybe a little bit more explosive there. You've got the home team that's, again, 0-2, going to be desperate. But I'm not jumping out in front of this Knights team that I've got a lot of respect for. Now, one of their really important forwards is Bo Scott, and I think he was ridiculously lucky to avoid suspension for the cheap shots on JT. So he's there. It's a full-strength Knights team. The line is 2.
The line is 2 at the moment. It's changed a little bit. And do you want to explain a bit about possibly getting the early number?
Yeah, and we'll probably touch on this in future weeks. But as of Sunday, the Knights were underdogs in this game, and I had seen the Knights beat the Cowboys in Townsville, and I had seen the Gold Coast lose 40-0. So I went ahead. They hadn't updated the odds, and that's what you got to look out for sometimes. So I was able to get Newcastle plus 1.5. I knew Newcastle would be favoured in this game. Then by, I think, Monday, the line was 5.5 or 6. Newcastle favoured. So that was a great odds that I got. Unluckily for me, 3 of their top players are back in the side. But I'm still probably got to be happy that I've got Knights plus 1.5.
Yep.
But this is what we explained, that it's not about teams, it's about numbers. We're not giving it as a best bet for the viewers, because now you've got to lay 2 points, and it's a better Titans team than what I thought I was going up against.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So at plus 1.5 for the Knights, you'd love that bet. But laying 2 points, this could be an arm wrestle game. The Titans getting, obviously 2 of their best players back. They're going to be absolutely fired up. This is too risky of a game for me to get involved in. I don't have a strong feeling either way. And then the Monday night game, the Roosters hosting the Panthers. Now the line here has actually been pushed up from about 6, and now the Roosters are laying 7.5. And this line seems to be moving upward, and that is for probably one reason and one reason only.
Yeah, and that is that Jamie Soward's out, because you've got a team that won 40-0 last week playing a team that lost by 8, so there's no reason for the line to go up. But Soward is, a really integral part of this Panthers team.
Absolutely.
Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, hang on, if your maths is correct, we've only given out 3 best bets, and this is a historic game for the pod, because we've got a couple of takes on this game. This is what I've picked to be the grand final, and I'm not changing my prediction just yet. Sydney's fine. Sydney lost on the weekend to the Bunnies. That was a great game, and that was a really high-scoring game. Over 60 points in that game. I think that was really unusual. I think there were a lot of crazy tries, a lot of broken play tries.
There was, yeah.
And Penrith put up 40, but that's not standard of either of these teams. These teams are both defensive teams. They're so hard to break down. It's so hard to score against either of these teams. I'm really picking an arm wrestle. Geez, I do worry about Penrith's ability to put up enough points to win, but I see neither of these teams getting much more than 2 tries each. I really see kind of a 16-14 game, and you can find Penrith as high as plus 8.5.
Yeah, that's right. So that's another reason why you sort of need to shop around. Obviously, the Roosters coming off an absolutely brutal game with South, and they easily could have won that game. They were up 10 points a couple of times, and then Inglis with some absolute magic out of the in-goal turned that game on a dime. But that is a brutal game to back up for, and I know that they've got an extra few days rest. But that Roosters Rabbits game is one that all the players get up for, mentally and physically. It was brutal, and now they've got to back up and play probably the 3rd best team in the comp at the moment in the Panthers, missing their best, their best playmaker. But, I think that's another reason why we should look towards the under in this game. Obviously, a few less points with Soward being out. Sydney coming off, a brutal game. They're going to be a little bit more tired. So, look, if we can catch 8.5 points with Penrith, I think that's enough to tip me over the edge. When it was closer to 6, I thought about it, and I thought it wasn't as good a value. But if we can catch 8.5 in some places, I think that's a play.
Yeah, and the total, just to explain, the total is you add both teams' score together at the end of the game, and that's the total points scored in that game. And you can bet over or under the total on any game. And the total right now, sitting around 42 points for this game. I think it's going down. I've seen some 41.5s, even maybe as low as 40.
Yeah, I saw a 40 as well today, and that's another reason why you have to shop around.
Probably based on the news when Soward's been ruled out for
That's right, and it's news like that brings the total down. Obviously, they think that Soward's a playmaker, can put a few more points on the board, and that's the reason the total's coming down. So that's a reason why we think you should jump on the total now, get the best number. 42.5's a lot of points in a game that we think could easily finish under 20 or 25, 24 points, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. So I really don't see this game scoring over 40 points at all, and we can get under 42.5, and we can get Penrith plus 8.5. Just one more thought about Penrith. 24-0 up against the Dogs, a great team in round
Yep.
1. They came out in the second half and they let the Dogs get 22 points right back in the game, scare the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the second round, they're up 6-0 against like a lowly Titans team. They said, let's get our ass in gear, and they came out and piled on, another 34 points. So this is time for them to put in a complete 80-minute performance. I think they really lock in. I think they really want to test themselves against the best.
Yep.
I know Sydney's going to be desperate. I think both teams are going to want to complete a lot of sets, play their cards kind of close to their chest, and really try and win an arm wrestle here. So I really think it's got great potential to be low scoring, and we can cash not one but two best bets.
Yeah, that's right. And another thing, Penrith got off to a slow start against the Titans. A few mistakes there in the first half, and they won't want the same thing to happen this week. So I think we're going to see some conservative, one off the ruck for the first, 10, 20 minutes. Hopefully not a lot of scoring then. And then, 42.5's a lot. You're going to need a few tries in there. So they're two best bets in the Monday night game. So you could have if you roll all that money over, you could have a lot riding into the last game.
Yeah, so that's pretty much going to wrap it up, as Heathy never does here.
We'll wrap it up.
Shall I just recap? We got the Cowboys getting 2.5 points on Friday night. I'd play that one now. I think that game could close a lot closer to Pick'em.
I agree.
Then Manly versus the Dogs. We don't trust Manly. We're taking the Dogs just to win the game. Just Dogs outright for the win.
Then we've got the Sharkies catching 10.5 points when the Storm host them. Play that now. We think that number comes down a little bit, and 10.5 certainly a much better number than 9.5. And then we've got the next game. Our final game is Penrith. We're going to play them plus 8.5 points, and we're also going to play our first total of the year, and that's going to be under the 42.5.
And that should do it. So I hope you have a great weekend. This is Judgment Weekend for us.
This is Judgment Day.
There could be bloodshed, but we've got confidence. We only give you the picks that we're putting our own money on.
Yep.
Shout out to Mix Picks.
Yeah.
Look out for that on our posts on our wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few people might not have seen that, but we've got one of our minions, Mick, a very good dear friend of the pod, and he'll give you Mix Picks each week, which will be a variety of picks from some of our best bets, including some of his horse racing tips, a resident horse racing expert. So look out for that, and it's a little tough to find. You'll have to click on the posts page, hop on there, and he'll have a full breakdown of mixed picks.
And as always, guys, please
Please!
gamble responsibly.